And as I share tonight, as I hope God shares through me tonight, because really this is a message that I need to hear, especially just with the season of life I'm in right now, that I need to hear. I hope you all would listen to what God's word says and that you would let it change you. That you would let it penetrate into the deepest part of your soul, into your life, into your heart, and let God actually reach you and help you to reach those around you. Sound good? All right, with that being said, how many of y'all know what this picture is behind me right here? Speed limit. Now, let me go ahead and let me preface this story before I say anything. I know I don't tell stories often starting off. I did not get a ticket. However, my heart rate was elevated for a good period of time. So here's what had happened. Last week, I was leaving FCA, and we had done the pancake breakfast at Seminole High School at 6 in the morning. Great, it was awesome. Went to FCA at Sanford Middle School. I already lied on stage, y'all. We're like 2 minutes in. I already lied. At Sanford Middle School, I had to leave early because we had a meeting, so they wanted me to shower. I asked in staff meeting, do you guys want me to shower? They said yes. We prefer you don't show up looking like FCA. We prefer you shower. Cool. I left at the time that I was supposed to usually leave from FCA. So I get in my car, I'm leaving, and I get to a little side street, and I notice there are no children running around, no children frolicking around. Usually there are when I'm leaving. And I was just like, oh, okay, I guess. And there's no crossing guard either. Interesting. Like, there's no cars going back and forth. All right, cool. So my mind told me, Akil, this school zone, the little flashing lights are not flashing right now. You're good to go. Everything is kosher. You don't have to worry about the whole 25-mile-per-hour speed limit. So I thought. So I pull out, and I was probably in second gear, so I wasn't going fast. Well, I pull out left into the main street, and because where I pull out, if it's right here, this line right here is basically the flashing lights that are flashing this way saying, hey, just letting you know, here's what's coming. And then over here are the flashing lights going this way saying, hey, here's what's coming. So I'm in the middle area. I had no idea what was going on until I pulled out and I'm looking and I look to my right and I see the police officers. And I was like, oh no. Because I know these police officers, they sit in a little corner and they wait for people to speed through this little school zone. And I never do it. In fact, I watch people go by and I'm like, sucker, you're about to get, like that's how, it's not bitter or it's not mean, but it's just like, you had no idea. Well, I had no idea either. And I saw it, and I didn't even have time to look at my speedometer. Like, I pulled out, like, cool, I'm good to go. Oh, no. And I go by them, and y'all, when you see a police officer and you know you've done something wrong, or you think you have, you get real close to God real quick. So my prayer was like, it was that fast. It was that fast. But I pull by 20 feet and there's nothing. And it's like, all right, I'm good. For like a millisecond. For a millisecond, I thought I had grace. And Jesus said, ha! Police car pulls up behind me. It's like, oh no. Then I saw the flashing lights. No siren, just lights. So I pull over, I stop, and the lady gets out. It's like, how are you, sir? It's like, I'm well, and yourself. I wasn't in my Christian mindset in that moment, but I acted like Christ. It's like, I'm well, and yourself. Thanks for pulling me over. I don't like you. I didn't know this person. She did nothing wrong to me. She was doing her job. But in that moment, I didn't like her because she scared me a little bit. It's like I pulled over. She's like, hey, do you know that this is a speed zone or this is a school zone? It's like, well, yes, ma'am, I know it's a school zone. Actually, I was volunteering at the school. I just left. I didn't even mention FCA. I didn't mention Jesus, like none of that stuff. I was just like, yes, look, I know it's a school zone. I didn't see the lights because I pulled out in the middle of the things, and I didn't see any kids or the crosswalk guards, so I just thought, okay, it's not a school zone yet. She's like, well, do you know how fast you're going? I couldn't even lie to her. I was like, I have no idea. You're going 31 miles per hour. Okay. 31 miles per hour and 25. So can I see your license and registration? Yes, ma'am. So she takes care of it. I'm sitting there in the car. Let me just tell you something real quick. I've come to realize I can be really petty. I can be really petty. Because in the moment where I said, you know what, if she gives me a ticket, we're supposed to be doing some things in a couple weeks to bless our first responders and all that kind of stuff. It's like, if this lady gives me a ticket, I'm not doing it. I'm in charge of it. I'm being honest. It's like, I'm not doing it. It's not happening. We're not going to bless the fire. Actually, it's like, we're going to bless the firefighters. We're going to bless the sheriffs. We're not going to bless Sanford Police Department. It's not going to happen. That's a gospel illustration in itself right there. Anyway, she comes back over and she's like, all right, I want to give you a warning just to let you know, hey, if you're going, and then she has the audacity to tell me what the ticket would cost me. Like, don't tell me that. It's about $400. She's like, I don't want to know that. She's like, but I'm going to give you a warning. Because I'm thinking I'm about to get married, and I've pledged to be honest with my fiance and vulnerable and tell her things, and I know this is going to come up like, you got $400 for speeding? How fast are you going? 31. In a school zone? Yeah, so, and she would say, Akil, did you know better? Yes, I knew better. But I didn't get a ticket, which is awesome. It was great. It's a great sermon illustration, and one day I'm going to use that in its totality. But in my mind, there's a slide behind me. Perception was my reality. Like, what I saw was, okay, there are no cross guards. There are no little niños running around. There's no cars. I'm good. In my mind, perception was my reality. Until I saw the red and blue lights flashing behind me, and I realized, perception is not always reality. I don't know about you all, but I have come to realize that that is true. I hear people say perception is reality. How you perceive it, that's real life. Like, no, that's not true at all. I've got a little warning ticket that shows, not a real ticket, but a warning citation that shows me, hey, your perception is not reality. And I want you all to understand that also, that as you walk through life, yes, you can perceive these in a certain way, and you can see, and it's interesting, perception is your five senses. That's how you take information in. But our bodies can't perceive all information. They just can't. We know that. They can't. Your perception is not always reality. And tonight we're going to look at Lamentations chapter 3. We're going to look at a man and his life and some of the things that he decided to do or not to do, and how we see him come to realize that, you know what, in the middle of his circumstance, in the middle of his situation, maybe perception isn't everything. Maybe when things are going terribly wrong in your life, or when things are going amazingly well in your life, you realize, you know what, this situation is temporary. It's not eternal. If you have your Bibles, go ahead and turn to Lamentations chapter 3. We're going to start in verses 1 through 6. We're going to actually spend most of the chapter. It's a long chapter, but we're going to skip around some places. And if you want to know what's going on in between it, I will tell you. Or if you just don't want to believe me, which is totally fine, read it for yourself some other time. So it says in verse 1, I am the man who has seen affliction under the rod of his wrath. Who is his? God. He has driven and brought me into darkness without any light. Surely against me he turns his hand again and again. The whole day long he has made my flesh and my skin waste away. He has broken my bones. He besieged me and enveloped me with bitterness and tribulation. He has made me dwell in darkness like the dead of long ago. And what this guy is basically saying is, my life is in a hard situation. Like, not only is it hard, but I got skin diseases. My skin starts rotting. Have you ever seen somebody with rotting flesh just falling away? Don't Google it because it'll disgust you. If you have a weak stomach, you might all over the place. But I've seen some skin diseases before that make me go, all right, I'm glad I'm not doing medicine. What this guy's saying is, my life is pretty bad. My life is pretty terrible. And this is not Lamentations, by the way, it's the writer of Lamentations saying it. This is actually a person saying, hey, here's my personal experience. So last couple of weeks we talked about how it was Judah or it's Israel, and they're sharing perspective. This isn't the country's perspective. This is one person who's going through some stuff. This is their perspective. And in the midst of him talking, he says, you know what? Life is pretty rough right now. Life is pretty ridiculous right now. And I feel like God is the cause of all this stuff. I feel like he's caused everything. I can blame it totally on him because, after all, God is in control of all things. He's all-knowing, all-powerful. He controls what happens or what doesn't happen. And so that's what the person's mindset is. We continue on and read. In verse 7 through 9, he has walled me about so that I cannot escape. He has made my chains heavy. Though I call and cry for help, he shuts out my prayer. He has locked my ways with blocks of stone. He has made my paths crooked. I look at this and I think about this fact that there are times in our lives when we go through situations and we seek after anything that can help us. We talked about this the past 2 weeks. If you haven't been here, now you know. When you go through stuff in life, and you try and find it out. And what this person is saying is like, I can't even get to my friends. I can't even get to the comfort food. Like, Netflix isn't working. Nothing I pursue is working. It feels like I'm trapped in this situation. It feels like I'm trapped in this season of my life, and I don't know what to do about it. I don't know how to get over it. And then the next verse comes up. I think it's the next verse. So it's actually 19, so the next 10 verses. He's talking about all the things that are going on, all the things that are going bad, how life is hard, how life is miserable. But then it's almost like he has a, you know what moment? And he says, remember my affliction and my wandering, the wormwood and the gall. My soul continually remembers it and is bowed down within me. So it's not just that, hey, you know what, things are bad, but it's consuming him. You ever met somebody who's consumed by their situation? Like, they've got something bad that's going on, whether it's in their life or somebody close to them's life, and that's all they can think about. That's all they can focus on. I can be that person. When something doesn't go right for me, that's all I can think about. I can't sleep. I want to fix it. And if I can't fix it, it irritates me even more. Like, I want to run to God, but at the same time, like, God, there's got to be something I can do. I always struggle to give it over to God. And what this person is saying is all I can think about right now is how messed up and how bad things are. That's all I can think about. Y'all ever notice, though, that oftentimes in the Bible, there is a but, a B-U-T that comes up. It says, hey, this is going on, but at the same time, so is this. But this I call to mind. It's basically saying, you're like, you know what? Things are really bad. Let me think back about my life, my situation. Oh, yeah. But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in him. This man goes from my life is terrible, my life is awful, to hold on. But my God is still good. My God is still amazing. Y'all, when I first read Lamentations 3, I had to stop for a second. I was like, hold on. It's like 2 or 3 in the morning. I wanted to preach to myself, but I was reading it myself, so I was just like, hey, self, check this out. Look at this. This is amazing. My mind was blown because in the midst of a terrible situation, remember, women are eating their children. People are starving. There's a drought going on. There's war. There's famine. There's a lot of bad stuff going on. In the midst of all this stuff, in the midst of him complaining about how bad and messed up his life is, he says, but I remembered that God's love is steadfast. I remember that God doesn't abandon his people. And now something's going to happen here. I want you all to interact with me. You're going to see, I think it's 2 words. I forgot what the words were. It says, yeah, in fact. Okay, cool. So when it says in fact, I want you all to say in fact together, because it's almost like somebody's talking to you and says, hey, you know what? I like spinach. In fact, I love spinach. In fact, it's my favorite food. So we're going to practice saying in fact together. So when it goes up on the screen, I want y'all to say in fact. We're going to try and be, not the whole 1, 2, 3, just like say it when you see it. Ready? Go. Go back. Go back. You ready? Go. Okay, in fact. Okay, you ready for this? So I'm going to go back to that last verse. I'm going to read it, and then we're going to go to that, and I want y'all to say in fact, okay? I'm not just a preacher. I'm a teacher. That's my natural gifting. My gifting is teaching, so I want you to come alongside me. I want you all to grow. I'm not just going to, here's a message. I can do that, but I don't prefer that. So I'm going to read this last passage, and we're going to go to this next part. So go back to 21. Yes. All right, here we go. I'm about to have fun, y'all. Did you sense the shift in my personality, my demeanor, when I went from like things are rough and miserable to things are really good? Because that's the life I'm living right now. Like, even though God is still good, I still go through situations and I'm like, what's the point, God? Like, the whole reason this series is called, because people look at Lamentations, they go, people walk through life like, how's your day? I'm just saying, like, maybe they lean to the left, because I'm a lefty, I like to lean to the left, but I'm just saying, that's what comes about. That's what comes out of it. Like, you read Lamentations all throughout it, it's just like, you know what, life is, it's just worthless. It's just no point. Then you get to Lamentations 3 and you realize there is a purpose for it all. But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore, I will hope in him. Amen. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him. Amen. It is good that one should wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. Amen. It is good for a man that he bear the yoke in his youth. I don't think there's another in fact after that. My bad. I know y'all were, I knew you were in it. Hey, look, y'all can interact as you're listening. I appreciate that. Great job. You guys did a great job there. Yes, exactly. All right. I love this part of the passage because this person goes from, you know what, my life is hard, my season is rough, to, you know what, I'm going to preach to myself when no one else is. There are days when you're going to get up and say, God, I'm not feeling it. And then I wonder if Jesus is like, yeah, I didn't feel it either when I got on the cross for your sin. We know he didn't. When he said, hey, Father, if there's any way, can this pass by me? But he says, you know what, in fact, not my will, but yours be done. And I wonder if that's the heartbeat of us. That's not even the point of the sermon. But I wonder if that's the heartbeat of us as Christ followers. If we say, you know what, in fact, God, forget what I want. submit my heart to what makes your heart beat. Help me to follow and serve you, no matter what it costs me. God, when I don't feel like preaching, call me up on stage and say, Akil, here's a message that reaches and speaks to your soul and speaks to those around you. When you don't feel like leading worship, say, God, I just have a song of praise. That's all I've got. It's to say thank you. When you don't feel like going to school because you're tired, because you're anxious, because of whatever's going on, when you don't feel like going to work, you say, you know what, God, I don't even do this for them. I don't do it for my parents. I don't do it for the teachers. I don't do it for the college. I don't do it for the money. I do it because, God, you've given me an ability. I'm going to honor you, and I'm going to glorify you with what I have. In fact, because, God, you are worthy of it. Now, that last verse, can you go back to it real quick, please? It says, it is good for a man that he bear the yoke in his youth. I looked at this, and I thought it was really cool because what it talks about, it's like looking at you all in student ministry. About how long can somebody be in student ministry if they're from 6th grade to senior and they don't get held back? Well, 7 years, right? 7 years, give or take, homeschooling. And how y'all do things. Just being honest, some of y'all come early, some of y'all stay late. Like, it's just the way it is. But 7 years. I was homeschooled, so it's okay. It was great. I fished every day. 7 years is a season of your life. You being a teenager is a season of your life. From 13 years old to 19 years old. It is a season of your life. And what this person is saying is, hey, you know what? It's good that you actually bear the burden, the situation, for a season in your life. Because that season is going to end. In fact, I want you to look at this right here and think about this word. This season won't define me, but it can refine me. Now, when I first wrote that, I said it will refine me, but I was like, Akil, that's wrong. That's not true. Because let's be honest, many of us will go through a season that's hard and that's difficult and say, bump this guy. I want no part of it. That's me. That's me. I recognize that I have many options, and I can do things by myself and on my own. And I say, God, you know what? I don't need this. I don't need to go through this. This season isn't worth my time. I can learn this from a book. And God says, no, you can't. No, you can't. And then he asks, Akil, are you going to be faithful where I've planted you? Are you going to be faithful with the people I've put in your life? Or are you going to be a little punk and you're just going to run away and say, I can't do it. Woe is me. God didn't call any Christian to be weak and say, I can't do it. He called you to say, God, I can't do it without you. I need your help. God, without your spirit inside of me, I can't do this. I won't do this. But if we can just let God lead us and guide us, no matter what the season looks like, no matter how long or how short the season is, God will guide us and take care of us and protect us. But is that what we're going for? You all are in a season of life right now where you can become something great in God's eyes. And when I say become something great, God has called you to greatness. And when I say greatness, it's not like, oh, you're going to be the president or whatever. Like, maybe you will be. That'd be cool. But if you can live a life that at the end of your days, God says, well done, my good and faithful servant, you did great. You didn't just do good, you did great. But how many of us are willing to do that? And how many of us are willing to say, you know what, God, this is really hard. This situation is really rough. Like, my parents are going through this. My family's going through this. My school, my body's going through this. People don't like me. People don't understand me. But you know what, God? You do understand me. You handmade me. You care about me. So no matter what somebody says about me, no matter how they treat me, God, it's yours. It's all yours. Let's continue on. All right, so we said in fact earlier. Now, this is the part where the person goes from saying, hey, you know what, God, you're good, you're great, you're doing all these things, to saying, you know what, as a matter of fact. And as a matter of fact is the point where you get to the pinnacle. You realize the height of what's going on. So I said, in fact, it's good that I go through a season for a period of time. In fact, it's my God who is good, who gives me strength. And as a matter of fact, I called on your name, O Lord, from the depths of the pit. You heard my plea. Do not close your ear to my cry for help. You came near when I called on you. You said, do not fear. You have taken up my cause, O Lord. You have redeemed my life. You all, if you've never seen the gospel in the Old Testament, right there, that word redeemed means to purchase. It means to take something. It's like taking a lottery ticket and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to cash this in because what I have right now, it represents something that's going to be great. God takes our broken, our empty lives and says, I'm going to redeem you. I'm going to make you whole. I'm going to make you new. I'm going to give you purpose. not because of what you've done, but because of who you are, because you're made in his image. And I confess that oftentimes I don't treat people the way that they deserve because I look at them and say, you're called to do this, so go do it. And God says, hold the phone. I'm pretty sure I asked Peter to feed the sheep, to feed the lambs, not to go send the lambs out. Feed them, walk alongside them. Yo, we need to be fed by God's word. We need to be fed by Christian community. We need to be fed, we need to be challenged, we need to be encouraged. And then we need to be sent out and find others to come alongside us. You're not meant to do this alone. But I look at this passage and it just brings to mind this simple thought. Perception got put into perspective. See, what the man saw around him, and I say man because he says, I am a man. Just saying. Perception was, this is hard, here's what's going on. My senses are telling me my life is hard. My senses are telling me that everything around me is falling apart. But my God tells me that he has it under control. One of the verses that I skipped, you can look back, it's under 19. It basically talks about, he says, you know what? Nobody can speak a word unless you allow it, God. Like he doesn't go with, we like to talk about like nobody can attack me, nobody can do anything to me. He says they can't even utter a word without your permission. So what do I have to worry about? What do I have that's worthy of me freaking out about? God, I can bring whatever petition, whatever issue I have to your feet. Because I realize that no matter how I may perceive the world around me, when I get proper God-centered perspective, I'm okay. I'm okay. And now that's hard to do. In fact, Jesus talks about it way later on in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 18. It says, therefore, it's Paul speaking, but Jesus is speaking through Paul. It says, therefore, we do not focus on what is seen, the things that I can perceive. We focus on what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. Some of us in here are seeing a lot of things that we don't like. And some of us in here are seeing a lot of things that we love, that we adore, that we'll give anything that we have to keep next to us. And one day, those things that we love and that we adore are going to fade away. They're going to walk away. They're going to leave us. They're going to break. They're going to die, whatever it may be. Those things are going to dissipate. And what are you going to have after that? Because what I perceive around me isn't always the reality. It's not. If I close my eyes, what I perceive right now is an empty room because I can't see anything. Are y'all still in here? Yeah, are you in here? Yeah, you're in here. But I can't see you, so I can't perceive you. That's how we walk through life so often. God, I can't see you, so I can't perceive you. God, I can't hear you, so I can't perceive you. God, I can't feel you in every situation in my life, so I can't perceive you. And God says, your perception is off. Your perception is off. You need proper perspective. You need to focus on where I am, where I'm calling you to be. And so I think there's one statement or question at the end, and it's this. Cool. Without God, life will always lack perspective. Growing up, I looked at life and thought it was meaningless. Like there was no point to humanity. Like we're just here, we're born, we struggle for a long time to try and get somewhere in life, and then we die. Like what's the point? It's pretty cynical. That's real life. A lot of people also walk through life trying to figure out what's my reason for being here? Like why was I created? Everything around me tells me I've got to be like this person. I've got to be liked by these people. I've got to be something. And God says, be mine. Be mine. And he made a way for us to be his. If you look back at that passage, it said that he ransomed or he redeemed us. It says that I called to you, God. I called to you, and you actually answered my prayer. If you remember the past 2 chapters, the people were praying. God's like, no, that's not the right prayer. No. Because what they were doing was they're saying, God, I need you to add this to my life, right? God, I need you to take this away from my life. And God was saying, you need me in your life. You need your sin taken care of. You need me in your life. And this person, unnamed person, said, God, you know what? My situation is rough. My situation is terrible. My God is good. My God is great. He has been faithful. He will always be faithful. And then he says, God, I need you to come in and save me. God, I need you to come into my life because, God, you've made it very apparent that nothing that I will go to is going to be good enough. Nothing that I'm going to pursue is going to be righteous enough. It's not going to be enough for me. But, God, I recognize the fact that you are. So even though I may struggle seeing it. I may struggle actually sensing that, God, you're good enough. I know that you are there. I know it. And so I know that this season of my life has a purpose. But how many of us walk through each day? How many of us walked into here, into this room, into this area, and put our hands up and sang to God, but didn't really feel like there is a point of us being here? And I'm not talking about being here at church. I'm talking about being here on the planet. And how many of us walk through the life we live and say, what's the point? I don't even need to be here. Like, I don't belong. When you have God in your life, you'll have perspective. But without him, you'll never understand why you're here. You'll never feel loved. You'll never feel like you're good enough. You'll never feel complete. You'll never be content. But you can be. You can be complete, content, full. You can find joy, satisfaction in all these things. And you can find it in Christ. Because once you have Christ, you're made whole. You understand the reason that you were created. You realize that the reason you're created is not to be like another person, but it's to be in the likeness of a God who ransomed his life for us, who said, look, I didn't come here to be served. I came to serve and give my life as a ransom for many. What he asks us to do is like, look, you got to serve people. You got to love people. You got to point people to the fact that what they see around them, what they perceive around them, it's not always accurate. But there's a God who's watching out for them. There's a God who cares, and there's a God who's aware of your situation.